Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here today. I'm really excited to go through today's webinar. We're going to talk about 7 ways universities can increase website leads without all like the normal pop-ups and SEO hacks and things like that. So the problem that we're going to talk about today at a high level is, as university marketers, higher ed marketers, there's an endless list of updates that we can make to our websites. And we lose valuable conversions and traffic because it's hard to figure out what the high impact levers to pull are. So today we're going to walk through what 7 levers that we can pull to move the needle. A lot of the data that we're going to be using today, talking about today in our recommendations, comes from a couple different studies and a wealth of decades of experience doing this types of work. But one of the first studies we're going to work through and kind of use for our recommendations is a study Vital did on SEO structure of higher ed websites, studying higher ed websites against more recent online only schools like University of Phoenix. And then the other study we're going to talk through and use to drive some of our recommendations here is the university website navigation and usability report that Vital did, which is a analysis of 150 higher ed university websites where we go through kind of the navigation strategies used, the common UX pitfalls that we're seeing, those sorts of things. So that's also going to drive some of what we're talking about today. And just as a quick sneak peek, one of the parts of that study that came out of that was 80% of university websites have no CTA buttons in the main navigation on desktop. We looked at 153 university websites and 80% had no CTA buttons in the main nav on desktop, which is really interesting because in SaaS, in B2B, in pretty much any other industry, that would be common best practice, and we see it work really well. But in higher ed, it's not happening there. And there are some good reasons why it doesn't happen in a lot of cases, but then in a majority of cases, it's just a missed opportunity. So that's an example of some of the things we're going to get into. But before we get way into this, I'm going to give a quick background on Vital, just so everyone understands who we are and what we do. And so real quick, Vital started in 2001, about 100 people. We have offices in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Boston, San Francisco. We're a digital marketing agency, which means we do website design and a lot of digital lead gen. I'm going to get into in a second. And we started building a higher ed focus and practice area around 2013. So for about a decade, we've been working with a lot of higher ed clients and doing a lot of traffic and lead gen and website research and work. At a high level, Vital is really 2 agencies in one. Half the agency is website design and development agency, where we have a whole crew that all we do is design, develop websites, write content for websites, launch them and maintain them. And then the other half of the agency is digital marketing strategy and lead gen. So we're doing SEO and paid ads management and conversion optimization, content marketing, email marketing, things like that. So it's kind of a half and half agency. So enough about Vital. Let's get into why you came here today. We're going to talk through the 7 ways that we can increase higher ed website performance. First one that we're going to talk about here is how the main navigation fails visitors' task goals. And so at a high level, we're going to talk about 3 things here. We're going to talk about what a task-based navigation is. We're going to talk about 2 main task navigation options and goals, and we're going to talk about what a surprise navigation is. So to start off on this first point here, this is a study done by the Nielsen Norman Group. And so this was a study of 57 university websites. There's a user test on 57 university websites, and it found 48% of the users on the website didn't realize that the university offered the program that they were looking for, even when it did. And the reason was basically people didn't know where to find the program. They didn't know which degree, which school the degree belonged to, that sort of thing. And so when they couldn't find it, they assumed the school didn't offer it. And 48%, that's like 50%, like half of higher ed websites, when they did the user test, the user couldn't find the program they wanted. And that's an example of main nav failing people. And so let's talk about what the main navigation is, right? The main navigation bar across the top of your website that holds the main navigation elements for your website. When a visitor is on a website, they are task-based. And what that means is they are on your website to accomplish a certain task. They're there to accomplish a task or a goal, but they have a certain reason for being there and they're trying to do something. On university websites, there's really four main tasks. There's all sorts of different tasks users are there for, but if we're talking about trying to get more leads for potential students, then there's four main tasks that we need to think through. And this isn't rocket science. I'm sure all of us as university marketers are well aware of these four tasks, right? They need to find their program information, right? Does this university have the program I'm interested in? Great. Next off, tuition and financial aid. Can I afford to attend the school? Next, admissions process requirements. What are my chances of actually getting in? And fourth, exploring campus life, depending on what kind of program is offered there. So they generally actually flow in that order, right? They don't care about number two until they find number one. They don't care about number three until they know number two, that sort of thing. So these are the tasks folks are trying to solve when they're on a university website. And main navigation on a lot of higher ed websites end up failing users who are trying to perform these tasks. And let's do an example. So let's do a basic task here. So here's a website, Baylor. Let's say the task here is the visitor on the website wants to get information on if Baylor has a bachelor's in mathematics. That's the task. So if I'm the marketer, the university marketer, I want to design a user experience in that main navigation that lets them solve that task and lets them solve that task quickly, efficiently, clearly, all that. So let's walk through it. First, we're starting at the top of the main nav. About, academics, admissions, athletics, give. Those are my main nav items. Okay, great. So as a user, I need to figure out, where do I think I would find information about a bachelor's? Academics, I probably hover a bunch of them and try to figure out, maybe admissions, probably not admissions, I guess not about either. Okay, academics. Is academics the most clear way to label that? Maybe, maybe not. It's kind of a catch-all. There might be a more clear way of doing that. So there might be a little friction there. Like, I guess this is probably the right place. And then, okay, cool. Let's say it's the right place. I've opened this main nav up. I'm looking at this, the mega nav, the mega menu that pops out from here once I hover academics. All right. So again, I want a bachelor's in mathematics. I'm interested in figuring out if the school offers it. And man, are there a lot of options in here. I don't see anything that says bachelor's. I'm looking for a bachelor's. I don't see anything that says bachelor's. I see graduate school, which makes me think, okay, well, if they list graduate school, then there's probably something here about the undergraduate or bachelor. No, okay, if there's not. All right, so maybe I assume now that all these schools are just undergrad because they called out graduate. All right, so I'm going to figure out which school it might be under. I see a lot of things. I see the honors college. I see professional education. I see research. Probably not any of those. Arts and sciences, most likely. Maybe education somehow. Depends. All right. I'm not really sure. Oh, okay. All the way at the bottom, there's a list of majors. Great. Okay. So maybe that's the place I need to go. And so that was a lot of like cognitive load I just had to work through, right? Which of these do I think it would be in? I need to make some guesses. I got to dig around. And probably the most useful thing to me is probably that list of majors, which is all the way on the bottom. So, we talk a lot about, when we talk about usability, we talk about cognitive load, right? And so I mentioned the Nielsen-Norman group earlier. They do a lot of usability studies. They define it as the amount of mental processing power needed to use your site. And it affects how easily users find content and complete tasks, right? So that was kind of hard for me to find the content I was looking for to complete my tasks. That wasn't like super easy for me. And then here's another example of a main navigation problem that happens on a lot of websites, is the idea of a surprise navigation. A surprise navigation is the idea of there are navigational items. And if you think of it like old school game show, like behind door number 1, right? So what's behind door number 1? The doors aren't labeled. And so it's a surprise. So in this one, a great example is, all right, let's say I'm doing the same exact thing before. I'm on, I want to get a bachelor's in mathematics. Cool. Where would I go in the main nav? News, events, giving, alumni, info for, who we are, campus and city, academic life, research, admissions, and aid. Which one of those is going to hold the degree information that I'm trying to find? Academic life, I guess. It's not super clear, but that is the right answer here. Academic life. The very first main navigation item is something called restless inquiry. Okay. That is what we would call a surprise navigational item. I don't know what that is. I'm not sure what would happen when I click it and what page it's going to bring me to. So that's a surprise. I don't know what's behind door number one. What is behind door number one is a surprise to me. This happens more than you would think, and it happens a lot in higher ed, where either the label of the name of the school might actually, the school within the university might not be very straightforward as to what it is. Or here again, our schools or area of study. Any of these three things, like I'm just trying to figure out what degrees are here, and that's how I frame my search and my task. And instead, I am now here trying to figure out restlessly, I don't know that, our schools, maybe area of study. And it's going to basically require me to click all of them and say, nope, that's not it. Go back. Nope, that's not it. Go back. Again, too much. It's just too much work. It's just you're asking me to do too much work as a visitor. We want to avoid the surprise navigation. Here's another example of a surprise navigation. This is the homepage, UNC, main navigation item, discover, navigate. Same sort of problem that we're running into here, right? I want to figure out if they have a certain degree type because I'm interested in that. I don't know which of these to hover. I don't know which of them to click. I don't know what's behind door number one on either of them. They're not descriptive navigational items. They might work from a branding standpoint, like discover UNC, but as like a just straight up, I'm a user and I'm trying to complete a task. This is unhelpful to me. This makes me use too much cognitive load to figure it out. We want to avoid this. We want to be very direct with folks. And here's why I want to really hammer this point home is people are task oriented when they're on navigating a website. They're trying to accomplish their goal and their task. They are not able to appreciate all the other information on the site until they accomplish their primary task. They don't care, right? If a visitor wants a bachelor's in mathematics, but they can't confirm you have them, will admissions information help them? No. Will campus information help them? No. Faculty highlights? No. Tuition calculator? No. Because they haven't figured out if you have the thing they want, so they don't care about everything else. And this is where things fall down. People end up leading with a lot of the things I wrote no next to. We need to try to get folks to their tasks faster. Here's an example of where you can do that very easily. So on national, main navigation item. Again, I'm trying to get, let's say I'm a user. I'm trying to get a bachelor's in mathematics. I'm interested in that. Where would I go? Well, main nav says degrees and programs. Perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for is what degrees and programs you have. You've labeled, it's not called academic life. It's labeled something that is direct and that makes sense to me and that helps me with my task. Great. I open that up and it gives me two different ways to navigate. I can either find the actual degree program, science and math. Perfect. That's what I'm looking for. Or bachelor's on the right. Perfect. I was looking for a bachelor's. Gives me two different options. Great. Getting me to my task really quickly. And if you remember from a couple slides ago, what were the four main tasks? Do you have the program? Do you have admission? Can I afford it? Financing and tuition. And then what are my chances of getting in admissions? Well, guess what? The next navigation item over to the right of degrees and programs is admissions and financing. So they actually have it mapped out. They know what the four main things are, and it is clearly labeled to get someone from here to here and help them accomplish their tasks. Next problem. Problem number 2, main navigation fails user interface goals. So these are more quick hitters. These are more direct and easy. But hamburger navigations on desktop, big no-no, no CTA buttons in the main nav. So let's talk about the hamburger nav first. This is real quick. So hamburger nav is your little 3 dashes that you'd have on mobile to help you expand menus. It's the kind of universal menu sign, usually in the top right, sometimes on the top left, but mostly exclusively used on mobile and tablets because it's a space-saving construct. You don't need a hamburger on desktop, But in our study, we found 28% of university websites use a hamburger nav on desktop. Problem with the hamburger nav on desktop is it cuts discoverability in half because you're hiding the main navigation, right? You want people to see the main navigation really easily, and they expect it to be there because 70% are going to have it there. They're going to expect it to be there. It's not there. You're asking them to use more cognitive load and to endure an extra click. Now I need to open this hamburger nav, and then it's going to take me longer to complete these tasks. So we want to get away from that. The other one is, like I mentioned earlier, 80% of websites, university websites, have no CTA buttons in the main nav. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Here on desktop, here's Western Governors, main nav. They have request info and apply now right there, both as buttons. Our study says 80% don't have an apply now button in the main nav, and 92% don't have a request info button on the main nav. These are two main conversion points we want for people who are seeking degrees. And we want those conversion points omnipresent. At any time, we want them to be anywhere on the site and be able to take that next step. The main nav is the way to guarantee they're always able to easily do that without having to click down and click down and click down and search for it. These are things we don't want people to have to search for. Next, generic degree pages. So two issues here that we see a lot that can be easily improved. One, degree pages that don't sell the degree. And then the classic, we also have that degree syndrome, bland, boring, poorly positioned degree programs. Let's talk about it. All right, so here's a great example. You can see I got two screenshots here on the right. One, the furthest on the side is the full degree page. So this is West Virginia University. Nice looking page, nice modules. I like the colors, styled nicely. It's great. Looks like it's pretty long. But if I read that page, I find that there's only 2 sentences that describe the degree. So this is a page for a biology master's degree. The rest of this page is generic content about WVU's application deadlines and requirements and just general things about the university, but nothing specific to the biology master's degree. Now that biology master's is going to run me 20, 30K. It's going to be challenging to sell a 20 or 30K degree with 2 sentences. And that is the opportunity missed on a lot of degree pages is they look a lot like this. They are very devoid of any content that is actually describing or selling that specific degree program. A lot of times it looks like what we would call we also have that degree syndrome is, yep, they have a biology master's, we have a biology master's. Since we're not going to describe it very much, I think it's safe to say these are very comparable degrees. They have one, we have one, we also have one. And we want to get away from that. We want to break the ability to directly compare degrees, right? If these are the products that we're selling, we don't want them to be directly comparable. We want to show all the ways that we are different and differentiated and better to get someone excited about that program. And so we find this is a missed opportunity on a lot of sites. And to show you like a good job, here is University of Cincinnati Online. So this is their business analytics master's degree page. Also a very long page, a lot of content on it. But on this one, they're selling that degree. They got content about why to choose that degree and why to get it from UC Online. They have sections about the college that it's from and the advantage you get from going to that specific college for that specific degree. They talk about the business analytics and data science by the numbers. So they're talking about average salary, employment rates, those sorts of things with that specific degree. They're doing the demand for data scientists is skyrocketing. So they're talking about the demand for the career they get with that degree. Afterwards, they have testimonials from alumni who got that degree. They have a, let's compare 2 degree types. Is it business analytics or should you get data science? Learning outcomes based on that degree and even FAQs. So this page is selling that degree. There's a lot more reason for me to want to get that degree and appreciate that. And also not only sell me on that degree in general, but why to get it from University of Cincinnati. That is a much better way to handle selling the degree. Next up, Mobile, poor mobile experiences. So we got a couple different areas to talk about here, but these are easy areas to solve for the most part. And these are things that we can quickly get done to improve our mobile experience. One, in our study, we found 58% of universities have a search bar in their main nav, but they haven't necessarily accounted for it well on mobile. So what we're seeing is a lot of responsive websites that are built to respond to mobile viewports. Essentially what they do is collapse. So the modules collapse and they stack, and you take a site that goes wide and it becomes skinny and tall, and all the modules stack like that. And navigations do a lot of different things on responsive on mobile. And on a lot of university websites, what we're seeing is the search bar, since again, about 60% of sites have them in their main nav. On mobile, the search bar becomes very, very prominent. Here's an example right here. You can see I'm on mobile. This is the homepage. On the homepage, the biggest thing I see right when I come in here is a big blank box, which is the search bar. And given the contrast, right, everything is blue and that's white, it's sucking in all the attention. It's saying, this is how you should navigate this site. We prefer you navigate this site with the search bar. It takes up a lot of real estate. And the problem with leading with search bar first is that there is a study by Volt that talked to higher ed marketers and asked them about their confidence in their website search. 46% of respondents felt the quality of their site search results were average or below average. 22% said they were poor or very poor. So we're like 68% aren't confident their search works well, which is okay. The search is a thing to get fixed and to work through. But if you know it might not be the best, then it's not something you want to lead with and have front and center. And so like, here's an example. You can see I did a search here, bachelor's in art. And what it came back with, it was a blog post about 2019 senior studio seminar, right? Not the best result, especially if that's my first interaction with the site is I don't find what I need. So by taking up that much real estate, and we see it across lots of higher ed websites, prominent real estate in the main nav on mobile, basically just begging people to use it. And that might not be the way that we really want people to navigate our site. We want to control that navigational experience the best that we can, if possible. And so having it, the first thing on the page, the top of the page, high contrast, right? White box, blue background or red background, whatever. It just might not be the way that we really want to push people to use the website and to navigate the website. Now, search, I want to be clear. Search is incredibly important, and you should have search on your website, and users should be able to use search. All I'm saying is it might not be the primary mode of navigation you want to push your users into. And a quick improvement, the way that we think about search here is a lot of times search is a great usability test for your website. And what you should be doing is going into Google Analytics and looking at your search data. What are the queries that people are searching your search box for? Because that will usually tell you where your website navigation is failing. So if you go into your Google Analytics and you look at your, show me the search queries that people have typed into my search box, and it says a certain program. Okay, well, if you have that program, but people are continually searching for it, that might be a great sign that your navigation is structured in a way that people can't find it. Tuition, another common offender you'll see in searches with higher ed sites, is people are just trying to get straight to tuition information. And the way a lot of sites are structured, that you got to jump through like 3 admission page hoops to find it. And people get frustrated and say, I'm just going to search. And so your Google Analytics data about search is really a gold mine for telling you about usability issues with your website. And what you want to do is try to be actually knocking those down, right? If no one can find a certain program and they keep searching for it, you should improve your nav so that they can find it easier and hope that the search volume starts to actually go down for those queries. Another one, partial navigation, partial mobile nav. So here you can see it's like taking up like 60% of the screen. This was all the rage, like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Hey, we want to make sure they still understand which page they are on and they can see it. But generally what happens is you're just limiting the real estate that you have. You're already limited on mobile, and then you're kind of cutting it in half again. And that's just making it harder on the user to find what they're looking for. And so we see a lot of different variations: half the screen, quarter of the screen, middle of the screen with stuff showing in the background. It's not the end of the world necessarily, but we want to maximize the mobile viewport. We want to use as much of that real estate as possible so that people have a good experience and they're not distracted and they're not trying to like look at really small font because we're not using the full real estate. So again, make it wider. And no CTA buttons in the mobile nav. Again, we mentioned we're missing them on desktop, so of course we're missing them on mobile, but it's a great way to convert more of your visitors is to give them an easy way to convert at all times. And so more examples here of sites that don't have CTAs on mobile. I'd throw some CTAs in there in my mobile nav to apply now, request information, whatever we can get to whatever our preferred conversion is that we want to get people into. And here's an example of a way you can handle it. There's a couple different ways here. Liberty's doing a good job though. So top of the main nav, you got a sign-in box CTA. Again, that's not aimed at the audience that we're trying to convert into leads for us, but they got a button into their main nav on mobile, so that's great. And then the bottom here though is great. The bottom I have a chat live, I have request info, I have apply now, I have visit Liberty. I have 4 CTAs on mobile in my main nav, and they're there. They even have nice icons. It's a great way to handle that. Last thing on mobile is call it time to value, but essentially, given that mobile real estate is limited, we want to get people to the valuable information on the page as quickly as possible. The valuable information on the page is usually down more into the body. And so this is a great example here of a university where if you get on this page, without scrolling, just above the fold, I see breadcrumbs. I see a massive title. I see a anchor nav drop-down box and the start of a CTA possibly. I see none of the content that I'm probably looking for though, right? I want to read more about this degree. And this happens a lot. Again, it's a responsive issue where responsive designs collapse, and it worked on desktop, but it doesn't work so well on mobile. And so here, I don't need the breadcrumbs, right? Get rid of the breadcrumbs. I could shrink that font significantly. The in this section, that could be much smaller. What I want to do is pull up the body content below the fold. So this is an easy thing to check on your phone. Go to your degree pages, go to any of your main pages, pull it up on your phone, and how far do you have to scroll to get to the body, the main content? How much of this other stuff is in the way? So again, these are easy tweaks to make. This is easy style sheet stuff. So this is a quick one. But again, you can see it. Here's a bunch of examples of this happening. On the left, you can see we got tags at the top. We got print options at the top. We got a massive title in the middle. We got a massive image pushing everything down. There's a lot of different ways things on mobile, the real estate doesn't get used well. And that's just going to, one, make the user have to work harder or bounce quicker, right? They're going to get here and be like, I don't really see what I'm looking for. I'm out of here. And Google's going to see that as like not a great page experience. And so eventually that's going to hurt you in SEO or organic rankings. But while we're talking about SEO, let's double down on that. So SEO, next problem. There's 2 SEO problems we see. This is the first one is technical SEO. So small issues compound. So there's lots of small issues on sites that get overlooked, and then title tags getting overlooked as well. So let's look at those real quick. So we see this on a lot of sites, and this is somewhat normal, but it's a missed opportunity. And there's just lots of small errors happening at a high scale. So, what we have on the right here is one of the tools that we use for SEO and for site monitoring and site health, and it's called SEMrush, semrush.com. The software scans the site, finds all the errors, broken links, broken pages, 404s, duplicate content, like just all these issues that, one, it's going to mean your user's going to have a bad experience because they're going to find these 404s and broken links and all that sort of stuff. But two, Google sees it and Google says, this site's riddled with errors. I'm not going to send a lot of people to these pages. And so, this is just a basic scan. Anyone can do a scan like this with SEMrush. And it comes out and like, there's 1,100 errors on this site. There's 30,000 warnings, which is like one step down from an error. There's a lot to be fixed here. And these are all small things. None of these are catastrophic things, but they're small things that add up and then they compound, and they compound in a way that is, users have bad experiences and Google doesn't like this site and doesn't rank it highly because it sees all these errors. And so you're missing out on organic traffic, and you're missing out on giving the best user experience you can to the visitors on the site. So don't ignore the small errors. Make sure you have a way every single month to be looking at these small errors and fixing them. Vital has a lot of clients in our retainer program, our digital marketing retainer. And every single month, they have an SEO check where the SEO team logs into SEMrush. We look at all the errors, we put them on a list, and we knock them down. And sometimes if the list is this long, might take several months to knock down, but that becomes the discipline that you need to have, that you should have in place to be fixing and addressing this stuff. And this software is cheap. Like, anyone can have this software and know this and then start working on it. The other thing, this is an easy thing that people can do, and it's just overlooked, is page title tags. So the title tag is what Google displays to people when they search Google. So on the right here, accounting major from Elon University, accounting major, that's the title tag for their accounting page. I think it's actually their bachelor's page, but for that page, that's the title tag. If you look all the way down at the bottom for North Dakota State University, it's accounting. And so what's happening here is there's not a lot of consideration being given to what the title tag says, even though that is the first thing someone sees on Google. So they have to see this on Google and click it before they see your page, right? And so, for example, there are 22,000 Google searches a month for the keyword bachelor's degree in accounting. That's awesome. That's a really high search volume. We would want to, if I was any of these programs, I would want to rank for that. And I would want to be getting traffic from Google for that. Unfortunately, none of these title tags say the word bachelor's or the word degree. And since they don't say those words, one, the user, the person who's searching Google for bachelor's, if you even were to come up, Google's not going to let you come up because the title tag isn't right. But if you even were, they might not even click it because it doesn't say the degree level. I'm looking for a bachelor's and your title tag says accounting. And so it's a small thing, except when you zoom out and say, but these schools might have hundreds of degrees they offer. And if the website CMS follows this system and the system says, say major or don't say anything, just say accounting, then we're actually talking about hundreds of pages on a website that could be ranking better if the title tag structure was descriptive and used the keywords that you want to rank for. So that's another easy one, right? Just correct those pages. There's ways to systematically do it in a CMS to make sure you add those things on so that they all say the degree level, bachelor's, master's, whatever, and also say the word degree. And that'll help your click-through rate. More people will see it and be like, yeah, I do need that. That's what I'm looking for. And Google will see it and it'll perform better. So it's another easy one. And then poor technical SEO, big structural issues. So there's two big structural issues we see with SEO. Vital did a study of higher ed websites. We looked at online only schools. So like Phoenix, University of Phoenix, and like Western Governors and those types of like online only schools. And then your kind of traditional universities. And we're comparing a lot of SEO attributes. We wanted to understand the differences between these two because we see very different SEO performance across the board. And SEO performance just meaning ranking well in Google and getting a ton of traffic from Google. That's the differences that we're seeing between some of these schools here. And one of the things that we noticed was subdomain structure. Now, this is a little nerdy, so you have to stay with me for a second. I'll try to get us through the nerdy part. But basically a subdomain is part of the URL structure for where the website actually is installed and lives. And so on this top example, we have this Harvard example, right? And it's his.harvard.edu. Okay, in this scenario, HIS is a subdomain. Below it, we have harvard.edu/staff. In that example, staff is a subdirectory or subfolder, and harvard.edu is the root domain. So you have root domain in the middle, subdomain ahead of it, subdirectory or subfolder after it. When we look at the traditional schools, we see they have, on average, 800 subdomains. 800, but if you run these sites, this is not a shocker to you. You know, every school has its own subdomain. We know the athletics department has their own subdomain. Everybody has their own subdomain. So you accumulate a lot of subdomains. Online-only schools don't do that. They don't break it up that way. They structure everything under the root, and they have very few subdomains. And there's a lot of reasons why traditional schools do that. And a lot of it has to do with IT and the way that IT has structured these websites to set it up. It has to do with security. It has to do with access. There's lots of reasons. There's even lots of good reasons why it's set up like that. What I'm here to say is that a lot of these online-only schools have figured out there is a secret SEO leg up to not having all these subdomains. And the reason that it's a huge leg up from an SEO perspective is that Google views each subdomain as its own separate website. And so the subdomain gets zero benefit from the root domain. And the benefit being authority and links, right? And so if you install a brand new subdomain, in Google's eyes, you are starting from scratch. That is a brand new website, and that is not associated with that root domain. And so they don't know you from anything. So you got to start from scratch. You got to build every single link. You have to build up your authority. And basically, you're not going to rank until you build up significant authority to that subdomain. But if you were to install that website in a subdirectory instead, Google would say, oh, you're part of this school. We know this school. It has hundreds of thousands of links and a very high domain authority. We trust it, and we're going to rank it like crazy. And so if you can get that website installed as a subdirectory, you're going to get a crazy amount of SEO benefit versus literally zero. And that is the leg up that we see here. And it's an infrastructure problem. It's an IT challenge. I understand. But it is a memo that some schools have gotten, and they've figured out how to get a big leg up on SEO. And there's actually, I found probably about 20 schools that were traditional schools, that weren't online-only schools, that were your more normal. They have an actual campus, and they've been around for 100 years. And they figured out how to start using subdirectories to install for specific websites in schools. So it's very possible. It's a big IT conversation. It's a structured conversation. It's all of that. The other part that's very much tied to this is the number of hosting providers when we look at online-only schools versus more traditional schools. And so what goes along with having hundreds of different subdomains is, well, you got to host all those different subdomains and different websites. So you end up with a lot of different hosting providers. So again, online-only schools, 3 hosting providers. Average amount of hosting providers for traditional schools is 27. What happens there is you have a lot of variability because different hosting providers provide different levels of service. And the variability is specifically in security and in speed, right? A lot of the security from your website comes from your hosting provider. Your host is what stops a lot of attacks and puts a good barrier between you and a lot of bad stuff. So from a security perspective, hosting matters a lot. So if you have 27 different hosts, then you actually have security issues because they're all going to have different variabilities or vulnerabilities. And that's a lot to manage. And the same thing goes for speed. A lot of the speed of your website, how fast it loads, has to do with your hosting, with your server. And so again, if you have 27 different ones, sites are going to load crazy different. Some are going to load fast, some are going to load slow. And Google cares about how fast things rank. So Google's not going to rank certain schools well and other schools better, those sorts of things. So this is another part to think through. It's a big structural problem from an SEO perspective, but the schools that are figuring this out are getting outsized benefits because honestly, it's a pretty hard thing to figure out. So a lot of schools are just not going to be able to do it. But the ones who are going to figure out how to do it, they're getting outsized benefits. They're going to pull ahead of everybody else. If you want to learn more about that, we have a full report where we go over 7 different critical SEO factors that we tested and looked at against 30 different university websites and subdomain structures. So if you want to check out our report on that, we'll send it in our follow-up email after this is over. But that will introduce you to several other big issues with the subdomain structure. All right, winding down here, we're almost there. So one of the last things we want to talk about is only bottom of the funnel conversion offers, only aiming at the bottom of the funnel. So what do I mean by that? So on higher ed websites, university websites, the primary conversion offer is usually apply now. That's the main conversion offer you see. That's very prominent. It's throughout the site. That's mostly what's being pushed for, is apply now. And that's great. But the problem with that is that it's not really relevant to a lot of people. Not a lot of people are ready to apply now, like right now today. Not a lot of people who are on your site now, who are researching and kicking tires and trying to figure things out, are ready to take that step. But that is the only conversion offer we're offering them. And a study by Marketo found that only about 4% of website visitors at any given time are ready to take that first step of making a purchase, of taking a big conversion action like that. And there's a lot of versions of this. This study's been done by a lot of people. It always ranges. This says 4%. Some of them say 6%. Some of them say sub 10%. It's usually sub 10%, right? It's a small percentage of people on your website right now are ready to pull the trigger. That means the majority of our website traffic is not. And if our only conversion option that we are offering them is apply now, we are only speaking to sub 10% of our total visitors. The rest of them were like, we don't want to talk to you. We don't want to convert you. Come back when you're ready to pull the trigger. We're missing out. We're missing out here huge, right? We want to convert as many of the people who are on our site researching and kicking tires and who are getting ready to apply now eventually. We want to convert a way higher percentage of this pie. So, when we look at our data from our study, we found about 7% of university websites have a request information button or request information CTA. Request info is a great alternative to apply now, because apply now is like, that's the big, let's get married commitment thing, right? I got to get transcripts. I got to do like this whole thing. That's a big step. Request info is like, give me a couple form fields and send me some information and like, let me talk to an enrollment counselor. That's great. That's a way lower friction offer. And 7% of higher ed websites have a request info CTA in the main nav. 7%. Like, that is such a small number. What an opportunity. And so here's a great example on the WGU website where you can actually see they got 3 areas, right? Far right, I'm ready to apply now. They put it on the far right because they know that's the marriage proposal. That's the big one. I'm not going to be greedy and force that. I got call me in the middle. Yep. You want to talk to your enrollment counselor? Cool. Let's get on the phone. We'll see if you're a match. You don't got to fill out a lot of information, right? That's perfect. That's great. And email me, same sort of deal. Email with an enrollment counselor. These are lower friction offers that are going to be relevant to a larger amount of traffic on your website. If you can get lower friction offers that are relevant to a wider amount of your website traffic, your conversion rates are going to go through the roof. Other ways to improve it is maybe have offers like get a scholarship or get a grant, right? Cool. This is an easy offer. This is 3 fields, first name, last name, email. Boom. I just converted someone. Now they're on my list. I know they're interested in this grant or a scholarship or something. Request free transcripts, same sort of deal. Another very low friction offer. I don't need to collect a ton of information. And boom, I'm collecting so much more website traffic. So we made it. So quick recap. There are 7 areas that we can unlock outsized website performance. We covered all of those. We have main navigation issues. We have generic page issues. We have poor mobile experience. We have technical SEO issues, and we got bottom of the funnel conversion offer issues. If we can solve any of those or all of those, we are going to unlock outsized traffic and outside conversion rate improvements for our websites. And so where should you go from here? What I'd recommend where you should go from here is picking a couple of these and seeing what you can get done. Some of those require more effort than others, but there's lots of things, there's lots of elements on this list that are very low hanging fruit. The other thing you can do is if you want Vital's help with this, at Vital, we offer two different audits. We offer a website conversion audit. And so the website conversion audit is Vital will audit your website. We look at 83 different website factors that impact conversion. We'll pass or fail you for all those factors. We'll tell you why you passed or failed. And then we'll schedule a phone call with your team and we'll present the report to you. We'll answer as many questions about it as you want. Typical audit usually finds ways to increase website conversion rates by 5 to 30%. If that's interesting to you, Vital can give you a huge head start, hand over an 83-point audit, tell you all the places where you're leaking conversions on your website. Or we can audit it for SEO, right? There's a lot of traffic opportunities. We're losing traffic in all sorts of different places on websites. So we have an SEO audit, 74 point audit. We look at 74 website factors that impact SEO. A lot of them are specific to higher ed. We go through those, same sort of deal. We'll give you a report on it. We'll walk through the report with you on a call, answer as many questions as you want about it. And it's just a good jumping off point for you. You could be working on the recommendations for that audit for the next year. It gives you a ton of work that you can be doing with your team to knock it down. Vital would be happy to go through your websites with you and work those things out and tell you about all the areas that you can improve on. So those two audits are great ways to engage with Vital if you're interested in working with an agency on improving any of these things that we went over. And then I'd say make sure to get these two reports that we talked about, the university website navigation problem and the university SEO structure problem. Those will both be pretty illuminating and hopefully give you a lot of data to go back to your teams with and justify making a lot of these changes with. So based on that, I just want to say thanks from the Vital crew. Thanks for all your time and attention. And I think we have time for a couple questions here at the end. So I'm going to tag back in Josh and see if we have any questions to answer, and then we'll wrap up and head up.
For our first question we have, great presentation, by the way. Of all of these tactics, which would be the fastest to implement?
Of all the tactics, which would be the fastest to implement? I think the title tags are very fast to implement. That's a very low effort, high impact tactic to do. So if you basically go check your title tags, make sure that they actually say what you want them to say. The way you can check that real quick is you just take your URL and go to google.com. Don't paste them in your browser. Take the URL from the page, go to google.com and put them into Google. And Google the URL, and Google will spit out the title tag at the top. Or you could do a right click on your site, do the get info, look at the code, and then look for the word title. Basically, do a find for the caret title, whatever. But so that's how you figure that out. And then those usually if you have a developer, there's usually a way to do that at scale where you can add in all those things that are missing. So that could be a low effort, high impact thing to do.
Great tip. Another question. What kind of information do you recommend including on a degree program page?
Gotcha. So on a degree program page, I think the University of Cincinnati example is pretty good. So what we want to be able to do is we really want to sell the degree. So what we want to work backwards from is we want to go and sit with our enrollment counselors. And we want to say, hey, when we're talking to potential students, what are their questions about these degrees? And we want to try to get some intel from them. It depends on the degree type. If we're talking master's degrees, people are going to be like, what careers can I get? What promotions can I get? Or what new careers does this unlock for me? Maybe I'm a job changer. At a master's degree level, they might have questions like that. At a bachelor's level, the questions might be totally different. And what you want to do is you want to work backwards from what you know people are asking in either their enrollment counseling sessions or any other areas that they're struggling with. And then the other thing you want to do is start trying to figure out what their objections are too. So you also want to proactively address objections, which are generally really a lot of the four things, right? Can I afford it? Will it help me in my career? Will I qualify? All that sort of thing. So you want to proactively address those. But in general, we want to look at our degree pages as kind of a product page. Like, this is what we're selling. I understand we're selling a lot more when we're selling a university product. We're selling community and campus and culture and athletics, and like it's a whole package that we're selling. But the degree is a very important part of it, and we want to do our best to differentiate. And I said it before, but we want to break the ability to compare. So if we look at someone else's degree page and they say everything we say, then we're not breaking the ability to compare, because we're making that an apples to apples comparison. We want to really show why this degree is, prestigious and incredibly helpful and valuable, and will lead to better outcomes in my career later in life, and have alumni who believe in it, and like all those sorts of things. I could go on forever about this stuff, but we want to cover all those things, but we also want to make sure we're using data where we either talk to students, like interview students, or talk to enrollment advisors or enrollment counselors to get their takes on it too. And then all of a sudden you're going to see these degree pages shift in a really meaningful way.
Awesome. Great advice. Another question. On mobile, besides time to value, are there other ways to assess mobile performance?
Yes. So the fastest way to do that I'd say is Google actually has a tool for this. It's called Google Page Speed Test. So if you just Google Page Speed Test, or it's also called Lighthouse Page Speed Test, drop the URL of your page into that, and Google will actually spit out mobile scores. It'll tell you how fast it loads, how quick the images load, anything that's blocking loading it quickly, any code that's getting in the way, any usability issues, any SEO ability issues, any accessibility issues. So I just say go to Google Page Speed Insights, use their tool, drop your URL in, and it'll give you a score, and it'll tell you all the things you need to do to improve it. Really easy, free tool.
Great. I think that was our last question. Chris, is there anything else you'd like to add before we close off?
No, this was great. Thanks everyone for your time. And I hope something in here was helpful to you, and you can take it and implement it and go make some big changes on your website.